Thank you. I'll now recognize Mr. Thierer for his opening statement.
Chairwoman Mace, Ranking Member Lynch, and members of the committee, thank you for your invitation to participate in this important hearing. My name is Adam Thierer. I am a senior fellow at the R Street Institute, where I cover emerging technology policy. My message here today focuses on 3 key points. First, there are meaningful benefits to governmental use of artificial intelligence technologies. Second, Congress and the Trump administration need to take steps to unlock those benefits by accelerating the modernization of government systems and policies. Third, we must appreciate the connection between broader AI regulation and the benefits the government itself can accrue from these systems. While the federal government is already integrating AI into systems and processes, progress has been slow, and there needs to be more urgency to tap the many benefits that AI can offer. The bipartisan House Task Force on Artificial Intelligence report from last December noted that, quote, each year the federal government spends over $100 billion on information technology and cybersecurity. Approximately 80% of this spending goes to operating existing legacy systems that are typically outdated and underpinned by archaic software and hardware components. AI can help address this persistent problem. Last year, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce released a study on how improved IT processes and aid agencies already help to, quote, modernize infrastructure, enhance citizen services, improve national security, and foster innovation, and unlock significant long-term cost savings and efficiencies along the way. Doing more with AI could generate even broader benefits. Accenture estimates that by tapping AI systems, federal agencies could unleash, quote, a productivity windfall for the U.S. government worth up to $532 billion annually by 2028. Just earlier this week, the UK government reported that a new trial of AI tools revealed how civil servants who use them freed up 2 weeks a year in working time, and 82% of them said they wanted to continue to use AI tools to boost their productivity. AI tools can be particularly helpful in simplifying paperwork and procedural hassles. AI has already been used to improve public records management at many different agencies, including document declassification and Freedom of Information Act requests. AI can also help streamline specific regulations and make them more cost-effective to ensure greater value to taxpayers. AI is already helping governments better administer various public services, including infrastructure management, public safety efforts, healthcare delivery, environmental monitoring, emergency responses, workforce development, and various other citizen services. As Congress and the executive branch look to continue to clear a path to efficient government AI uptake, the focus should continue to be on addressing barriers to implementation through 5 main priorities. First, modernize federal acquisition policies to boost AI adoption, especially by encouraging easier acquisition of sophisticated but cost-effective commercial systems. Second, streamline paperwork and use requirements associated with federal AI contracts and deployments, especially for small businesses and open source providers. Third, ensure government data sets are AI ready and interoperable such that the public, researchers, and other organizations can more easily benefit from them. Fourth, enhance in-house government AI talent and improve technical literacy at all levels. And fifth, boost trust and security in government technology systems. Congress has already passed several laws to facilitate some of these goals, and bipartisan efforts by both the Biden and Trump administrations have helped expand those efforts, including through chief AI officers in federal agencies. The OMB recently released very important guidance requiring agencies to, quote, adopt a forward-leaning and pro-innovation approach that takes advantage of this technology to help shape the future of government operations and, quote, harness solutions that bring the very best value to taxpayers. This committee and others should assist these efforts by helping the administration ensure that agencies are AI ready for the future. That means closer oversight of agency modernization and digitization efforts, plus the necessary funding to get the job done. Finally, Congress should recognize there is an important connection between broader AI policy and the benefits governments can gain from AI systems. Proposals to regulate AI systems are proliferating rapidly, with over 1,000 AI-related bills already introduced just 5 months into 2025. If these mandates expand, they will significantly raise the cost of deploying advanced AI systems because complicated, confusing compliance regimes would hamstring developers, especially smaller ones. A confusing patchwork of state and local red tape will not only undermine the market for commercial systems, but it will also undermine the government's ability to choose from a diverse array of competitive, cost-effective options. One recent study from CCIA reported the federal preemption of state-level AI regulation would benefit the federal balance sheet by up to $269 billion over the next decade by lowering procurement costs for the federal government. Congress needs to protect the interstate marketplace and ensure a robustly innovative and competitive AI ecosystem can develop. Some degree of preemption is needed to achieve this goal and ensure a diverse array of cutting-edge AI solutions are available to government agencies and to the public as consumers of both private and public services. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Mr. Thierer, I'm going to be talking with you mostly for the next 5 minutes. So I'd like to dig into the controversies regarding the moratorium section of the BBB legislation currently being considered by Congress. It's across the country as part of the narrative of the discussion of AI, and I believe we have an opportunity today to clarify the intent and the specifics of that section of legislative language in BBB. So in that topic, and please help me to understand, and in doing so, help the nation to understand, good sir. My read of the actual bill states that to that section in particular, going to the moratorium under the section of artificial intelligence and information technology modernization, says in general, except as provided in paragraph 2, which is essentially an exception to the moratorium that it allows for the sovereign states to enact and enforce laws that remove restrictions on use of AI. But the paragraph says in general, except as provided in paragraph 2, no state or political subdivision thereof, quote unquote, may enforce, comma, during the 10-year period beginning on the date of enactment of this bill, any law or regulation of that state. So my read is that the state is not restricted from debating and considering and voting on and passing and using their legislative bicameral body in each sovereign state to debate and vote on and pass laws regarding AI, and for that governor to sign that law. The big beautiful bill in this section states that the federal government is asking for a pause on enforcement. Am I right or wrong? And please embellish.
Yeah, thank you, Congressman, for the question. I testified about this in front of the Energy and Commerce Committee just 2 weeks ago, where there was a debate about the AI moratorium. And it's important to keep in mind that the reconciliation bill includes specific funding to modernize Department of Commerce technology systems. And there's a concern among members about exactly how that can happen if there's a whole host of conflicting laws at the
right,
state
and the
level.
so-called moratorium is under that section.
That's correct.
Please continue.
And so therefore, that would prohibit certain AI-specific types of regulations at the state and local level.
It
Again,
would prohibit the enforcement
yes,
of state-authored regulations.
that are AI-specific regulations. It's very specifically says that laws of general applicability are not to be covered by this, also criminal activity not covered. And so there are some important exceptions to this, and states are going to be free to continue to act on a lot of these different things.
So this moratorium, in the interest of time, just to clarify for the country, sir, this moratorium does not restrict the sovereign state's right to debate, vote on, and enact new AI legislation within that state. The moratorium is asking the states to recognize that AI by nature is interstate commerce, and under this section for modernization of the Commerce Department of the reconciliation bill, we're stating that the states should refrain from enforcement of new AI laws. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, Congressman, and specifically what you said about protection of the interstate, the national marketplace, is really crucial, and it reflects the broader consensus of Congress going back over the last 30 years about the internet and technology more broadly, that there does need to be somewhat of a national framework and make sure that we don't have a parochial patchwork that will interfere with the free flow of algorithmic commerce and speech.
Okay, that was a
6 seconds.
squared away explanation. I thank the gentleman. Madam Chair, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. I will now recess for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And thanks to our witnesses for being here. Mr. Thierer, the Trump administration has expressed a goal for the United States to maintain its dominance in AI. Why is it important for the United States to maintain its dominant position in AI?
Thank you for the question, Congresswoman. As you've heard here today from several witnesses, we're in a serious race with China and the Chinese Communist Party for AI supremacy globally. And the broad-based ramifications of who wins that race are significant for our, not just our geopolitical security, but also our values broadly as a nation and for the world. And so there's a real danger that if we don't get AI policy right as a nation, that China will take the lead. Its products will diffuse throughout the world faster, and we're already seeing this. I was testifying earlier this year at a hearing on the so-called DeepSeek moment, and we saw, surprised a lot of us, including me, how advanced these Chinese systems are today and how effective they've been at filling gaps globally that America's not there to fill at the moment.
Thanks. I do think the answer is pretty obvious, but it was important to get something on the record.
Sure.
How has the Trump administration approach to AI differed from the previous Biden administrations, and why is the departure from the Biden administration's AI policy necessary? Mr. Thierer.
Well, the Biden administration approach was very voluminous in terms of rulemaking. You know, obviously the executive order, longest in American history on AI, over 110 pages. And a lot of it was very fear-based, unfortunately, and didn't embrace the technology as much as the new Trump administration executive order and subsequent orders have done. And so I think there's been a real sea change of approach here in terms of understanding the benefits associated with AI technologies broadly.
Thank you.
Very briefly, sir. I just want to put in a good word for what the Trump administration has been doing with its recent executive orders and OMB guidance on this front, which has been to provide not only a framework for expanding the use of AI throughout government, but also getting more serious about security vulnerabilities and other types of concerns. And recent OMB guidances like M25-21 and 22 basically try to address these concerns you're raising.
Great, thank you.
All right, I'll now recognize Ms. Stansbury for 5 minutes.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to say thank you to the entire panel for your recommendations this morning. My background's actually in the sciences, and I've worked a lot of my career. I've worked in natural and earth sciences most of my career, including on big data and modeling. So I do appreciate much of what the recommendations are that have come from our experts. But I'm especially grateful that you're here, Mr. Thierer, because when the huge abomination of a bill, I'll call it, came down the pike, my eye actually caught the specific language and funding appropriation in the bill that you referenced in your testimony. And I think many of us were confused about where it came from, what its intent is, and this is the first time I've had the opportunity to actually ask some questions, so I'm glad you're here. And as I understand it from my look into your background, that you've actually been directly involved in developing this language and request, is that correct?
Not that language. I've written about moratoria in the past, though, going back to the 1990s when I worked with Congress on the Internet Tax Freedom Act.
Got it. Okay. So you mentioned that part of why this deregulation language is in here that would preempt state and local laws regarding the regulation of AI systems is in part because of this $500 million request that's in the bill. Can you help us understand what would that $500 million be used to do specifically?
Going back to the bipartisan House AI Task Force report from last December, there was a major section that led off the report about the need for government modernization of IT
Just
systems.
some specifics.
So specifically at the Department of Commerce, there's a need to actually improve how various programs function there, including new ones that have just been created.
Just some specifics, like what kind of systems would be built with this $500 million?
Well, I don't know exactly. I don't know the answer to that, Congresswoman. I'm sorry. I don't know specifically what Commerce will use that money for going forward.
Do you know where this request came from?
You'd have to ask the House Energy and Commerce Committee specifically who put the bill forward, that language forward in the.
Do you know what companies would benefit from this language?
No, but I do know that there is a broad need for many different types of vendors and services to be utilized by the federal government, not
So
just
this
large.
would likely go to private contracts, correct?
It would go to many private contracts,
Yes,
certainly.
okay.
Yeah.
And some of the leading contractors who do work in this area that already have government contracts are companies like Palantir, correct?
I believe that's one of many, but there's many other vendors of IT services and AI.
So correct, yes. And I heard you argue just a few moments ago when Mr. Higgins was asking you about this preemption language that it was needed because there would be integration of data from state and local entities. And it's my understanding, I think others have kind of alluded to this, that right now the Trump administration is working on creating some sort of master database that brings together data from multiple different sources across state lines. And in fact, there was a request that went out to the states asking for data about SNAP beneficiaries because my understanding is Homeland Security is interested in integrating data for immigration enforcement purposes. So they would like to integrate data using the census data that they hacked and exfiltrated and downloaded. They'd like to integrate data with the immigration databases that they have. And now they're asking states to send data that falls under state jurisdiction to integrate for immigration enforcement. And, you know, you can call it whatever you want. I've heard folks say this is not a master database, but it absolutely is. And we know that the Trump administration is trying to take American data and hire private companies like Palantir to create means to use American data for their own policy ends, including endangering the lives of Americans. So I think that one of the reasons why folks are reacting so strongly to this language that's in this bill is because it's so extreme. And yesterday I heard Marjorie Taylor Greene, I was standing on the floor while she gave a speech on this very language that's in this bill that would literally say that states and localities cannot enforce their own data rules or AI. It preempts federalism, it preempts state law. It would prevent states from protecting their own citizens. And, you know, it's rare these days that we have bipartisan agreement, but I agree with literally everything that Marjorie Taylor Greene said on the floor yesterday. This is dangerous. It could endanger American lives, and we cannot allow this language to get through. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you, and I'll
I guess
recognize-
part of the lesson should be the less the government does, the better, because they'll always screw it up. Right? That's one of the lessons should be. Now we'll go to Mr. Thierer. On the first day of office, President Trump rescinded Biden's executive order on AI. Could you describe some of the damaging aspects of President Biden's executive order?
Well, unfortunately, that executive order sought to do a lot of things that Congress should have been doing, Congressman, and really did not wait for Congress to take the lead on the questions of AI governance more broadly. Some of the best practices that were there for agencies to follow and some of the things that were recommended in terms of AI officers were fine. And President Trump has continued those practices in his executive order that replaced the Biden executive order. But I think generally speaking, at a high level, I think the Biden administration's executive order was just very fear-based and treated AI as more like a curse to be avoided than an opportunity to be embraced.
Okay. In your testimony, you cited a study that stated utilizing AI systems would allow the federal government to unleash a productivity windfall for the U.S. government worth up to $532 billion annually. Not 531, not 533, 532. Can you describe what kind of productivity gains AI could unlock in the federal government and where the big savings is going to come?
Yeah, they're really twofold. As that report was noting, there are very specific types of targeted reform and oversight efforts that AI can help with to improve, paperwork reduction, procedural issues, better administration of government. And then there's more broad-based productivity enhancements associated with AI itself and its use not only in the public but private sector that can ultimately benefit government administration.
Could you tell me which agencies you think would most benefit, or when you talk about, I don't know how you came up with 532, but is there any big agency you grab 200 billion?
Yeah.
What are the big?
Yeah, well, a lot of federal agencies could benefit from more efficient operations. Obviously, Department of Defense is one of them. But right now, important things being done at state and DHS and others just to approve paperwork on things like immigration issues or paperwork issues, FOIA requests, and so on.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Congressman, just briefly, I just point out that there's been a lot of government reports on this issue and a lot of efforts about government retraining and so on and so forth. It's very hard to have a crystal ball to predict the jobs and skills that are needed in the future. But I'll just point out that just 10 years ago, everyone was predicting a whole bunch of jobs that would be dislocated. The most famous one, and number one, was going to be radiologists. And just a couple weeks ago, the New York Times ran a piece that basically say there's more radiologists than ever, and they're utilizing AI to improve their jobs and free up time to do better things. And that's the story of technological change in sector after sector, is that we sometimes don't understand how complex human-machine interactions work and actually can change jobs for the better and improve the employment output over time.
I agree with
Mr. Thierer? I'm not having a good day. Mr. Thierer, with the establishment of the Special Advisor for AI and Crypto, what are some of the recommendations or priorities related to artificial intelligence that you would like to see them pursue?
Well, one of them is what you just asked about, Congressman, which is making sure that America has energy independence and a greater diversity of energy sources to power the algorithmic revolution. And this is something the Trump administration has taken steps to address with executive orders and other things like that. That's crucial. Obviously, a crucial part will also be the development of a national framework for artificial intelligence policy, just as we had for the internet before. We need to address this conflicting patchwork of policies that's developing. That's something the administration and this Congress is obviously concerned with. And then there's a variety of other things having to do with national security matters and other investments in various types of algorithmic and robotic systems that are really, really crucial, among many, many other things that Congress and the administration are trying to do.
For 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Lady. As the 435th most powerful member of Congress, I have the honor of asking questions that have been asked ad nauseum. But when I ask them, I answer as if this was the first time you said it, and the proper response is, Congressman Burchett, that is possibly the most incredibly intelligent question that's been asked of me. So at least my clips will show that. And the 12 people that are watching this thing are at home. They're probably not in my district anyway. They're probably in Marjorie's district. Anyway, Mr. Thierer, did I get that name right?
Right.
All right. All right. The majority of East Tennesseans, and frankly Tennesseans and Americans, are worried about their privacy being violated by government artificial intelligence programs. What do you think Congress can do to protect our privacy? And my biggest fear in all this is Congress. I mean, some of these cats up here still have 8-track tape players in their 1972 AMC Gremlins, and they're going to try to regulate AI. They can't hardly spell AI, and now we're going to regulate it. So,
well, Congressman, thank you for that excellent question. And as someone who used to grow up in a Gremlin with an 8-track player, I feel great affinity for this question. So I think that obviously we need to make sure that privacy is protected in the digital age, and this Congress has struggled with how to get that done. Obviously, we've had a multi-year, multi-decade debate about baseline privacy legislation, and a great deal of bipartisan consensus exists that that should be a priority before you get to a lot of the other questions about how to regulate all the various specific concerns about AI. A lot of them go back to fundamental data privacy, data security issues. And so I think, you know, let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's think about getting that done first. I know that's something Congress is turning to next. Chairwoman, you're going to like my answer because I'm going to say we need the AI Training Extension Act to be moved.
Oh, that's great.
we need better literacy and skills government-wide. We have a lot of smart people working in government, and sometimes it's just a matter of getting them moving in the right direction and the right training to get the job done.
Just derived in my mind. Anyone on the panel want to talk about the innovations in healthcare and AI, like particularly around diagnostics? I only have about 30 seconds, but I think exciting innovation, and folks will live longer, I believe, from what I've heard. Anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, Congresswoman, thank you for your leadership on this front. I will submit for the record a series of reports that my organization has put together on AI and public health, where we cite specific ways that AI is being utilized in drug discovery, medical devices, and so on and so forth. I'll just mention that we've had a 50-year war going on cancer, and we haven't made as much progress as we need to. But last year, 608,000 people died of cancer, and a lot of these things can be addressed now with the power of artificial intelligence.
I appreciate
10 years that the way that we have grown up and know life with AI will be forever changing. With that being said, there are a few differences that I think most people acknowledge, in that AI lacks a few things, one being a soul, also empathy. And we are not gods or God, and so I think that we're playing a dangerous game, especially moving into a future that's simply unknown right now, especially with, if we do not essentially develop the first AI super weapon, essentially that's what this is, whoever does will essentially control the world. And I think that that's a very serious topic that needs to be discussed right now. But specifically to transhumanism and coupling of AI with humanity, what regulatory frameworks can be established to ensure AI-driven transhumanist technologies like brain-computer interfaces prioritize human safety and consent? I'm opening this up to everyone on the panel. I have a few questions, so I'd like to get through this, so just please limit your responses. Mr. B, if you want to go first, or down there, either or.
I'll just briefly say, Congresswoman, that there's been a lot of work done on AI governance by multiple bodies and entities. I just want to cite something that actually came from the Biden administration on this, about the applicability of so many existing laws and regulations to AI. And their leading regulators for 4 large agencies said before leaving office that basically we have the ability to enforce the respective laws and regulations to promote responsible innovation and automated systems, and that basically AI does not get an exemption from civil rights laws, from consumer protections, unfair and deceptive practices, fraud, so on and so forth. So we have a lot of policies that do regulate many of the fears you're raising.